Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Raider roster report. This is Raider Sparks here. It's April 17th, and coming at you with another video. Today, we're going to talk about Clelin Ferrell and if the Raiders should draft somebody as a backup or future replacement for Clelin. I think all Raider fans are in agreement that we had overdrafted him 2 years ago, 4 overall. There's plenty of other people that we could have and should have picked, but we can't dwell on that now. He's on our team, and he's actually been somewhat productive. Obviously, really good in the run game. But if you take a look at my picture here with the old defensive coordinator, who was garbage for the team, I don't think did Clelin any favors as far as his development or anything else, to be honest with you. So we need to see what Gus Bradley can do of Clelin, and we have to figure out what Gus Bradley thinks of Clelin Ferrell as a player. His defensive scheme, Gus's defensive scheme, I mean, it's basically tailor-made for Clelin's skill set. It's early down 4 technique, so it's basically a defensive end at the 4 technique position. His responsibility in that set is to 2 gap and to be a run defender. So basically hold the edge, take the inside-outside gaps, and clear space for your linebackers, or if your Sam's going to blitz, clear space for him, that type of thing. And then on passing downs, to be able to have the ability to kick inside to the 3 technique and rush. And we've seen Clelin be able to do that. So this basically fits his skill set perfectly as far as the way the defense is laid out, but we have to see what Gus thinks of him. And I know we have 2 years left on his contract, but we also have that 5th-year option, just like Colt Miller, though, at the end of this year. We'll have to decide on picking up that 5th-year option. So there's going to be a lot of decisions made on Clelin based on this year. See how he does in the new defense. And if we're going to pick up that 5th-year option or not. So I don't think it's too early to discuss if we should draft a player to either back him up, because right now Carl Nassib is our backup. So that's a little bit challenging. I don't know that this role is necessarily made for Carl Nassib, but in any event, that's kind of what we're left with his contract of, just over $9 million. So we kind of have to. We don't have a choice at this point. But let's kind of go over some options in the draft. And before I begin, so the first, I would say 5 players, or 4 players, I guess, that we talk about, the Raiders would have to be, or maybe the first 5 players, that the Raiders would have to be willing to say, okay, we're going to draft this player. We're going to draft him at a fairly high position. In some cases, a very high position, and we're going to be willing to cut Carl Nassib and eat the money this year. Even though we just restructured him, we're going to have to be willing to eat the money. This is going to be a very difficult decision for Mike Mayock to make. One, you're admitting that you're not completely sold on Clelin Ferrell. If you're going to draft somebody, I would say in the first 3 rounds at least, or even if you could draft somebody in the first 4 rounds, I think that's kind of an admission that maybe you're not totally sold, or at least Gus isn't totally sold on him. And then 2, the contract that you gave to Nassib and then extending him and then be willing to cut him, that would look really, really bad for Mike Mayock. However, there's some fantastic talent out there that could do the position and do it very well. And so let's get into that real quick. So one of my favorite players in the draft is Carlos Basham. I think he's first-round talent. I'm not sure why a lot of the draft boards. I use PFN as the draft, and he's actually at 49, so he fit right at 48 for us in the 2nd round. But anyways, I think he's a fantastic player. He's got all the film you could possibly want to look at. He's a defensive end who can stop the run. He's very capable of doing the 2-gap responsibility. He can kick inside, and he's a very effective pass rusher from the 3 technique. Had a fantastic Senior Bowl. And then, I mean, his combine was good. I mean, it wasn't spectacular, but it was good. I mean, if you look at Clelin Ferrell, 6'3.5", 204. Carlos is 6'3", 276. I mean, Ferrell was 264, sorry. Carlos is a little bigger. Little problem I had with Carlos, so once I saw the measurables, is his length, 32.5 arms, 9 1/8 hands, but he had an 81 1/8 wingspan, and I'm not sure that's such a deterrent for Gus Bradley, arm length with his defensive ends, as much as it was with, the prior regime. Because let's say we drafted before, like Clelin, 34-inch arms. Max was long. Everybody else tend to be long. But if you look back at Gus's history, it's kind of a mixed bag. So I don't know if that's a big hang-up for him. But Carlos ran a 4.64 40, a 7.13 cone drill. Compare that to Cleland's a 4.77 40 and a 7.26 3 cone. And then short shuttle, Cleland's a little better, 4.40, and Carlos 4.25. And he benched 20. Cleland benched 25. So he needs to gain a little bit of strength, I think, to handle the position. I think that might show a little bit on some of the bigger tackles. But I don't see that being a problem with the pros. But again, drafting him would take a serious omission by Mike Mayock that he's really screwed up on the Ferrell pick, because now you're bringing Carlos back in the second round. You're coming in to battle for a starting spot. I mean, if you're using a second-round pick, he should be a starter. But in this case, it would be a battle, and you'd be cutting Nassib. So I just don't see how the Raiders could pull that off, although I'd love to see it, because I think Basham's a great player, and it'd make us really deep. But anyways, move on to the next guy, Peyton Turner. What an athletic prospect. He has 6'5", 270, 35 and 7/8 arms, 10 1/4 hands, 84 wingspan, 35.5 vert, 4.54 40, 6.70 3 cone, and a 4.25 short shuttle with 23 on the bench. 23 on the bench with 35-inch arms is fantastic. So this dude is physically gifted athlete. PFM has him going in the second round, late second. I think he'll go sooner than that even. But there's some technical difficulties with him. And I don't know if it was necessarily him as a player with the technical difficulties or Houston's defense. I mean, they had him standing up a lot of the time. A lot of the tape, you see him standing up, which made no sense to me. I mean, there's plenty of tape with the hand in the ground on the edge and then him kicking inside, which is really good at, which is perfect for the Gus Bradley system. But it made no sense of him standing up all the time. It just was confusing to me. And I think that's part of why the tape might have been a little bit off for him. His eye discipline I didn't feel was that great. He got caught looking in the backfield a lot and just couldn't figure out if the ball was being handed off or if it was a pass play, which happens a lot to college because there's so many RPOs and things like that. It's difficult. But you usually see that more in the linebacker than you do the defensive end. But I was seeing it with him on the tape. I'm just wondering if that would translate, how that'll translate to the NFL. But, I mean, as far as the physicality goes on the field, I mean, he's a bully, which if it was awesome is what you want from a guy that has two-gap responsibility with the Raiders. You want somebody to go and bully and handle the running game and be an effective pass rusher, which he is. And the physical tools are just incredible. I mean, I don't think the PFN has him at 62. I think he'll go much higher than that just based on his physical gifts, but we'll see what ends up happening. The third guy is Milton Williams. He kind of just jumped on the scene because of his pro day. I mean, he had some good film. I just didn't get to see a lot of his film. PFM has him at 67, which is a top of round 3. 6'4", 275, 31.5-inch arm, so he doesn't really have the length that you might be looking for, but a 38.5-inch vertical, which is very athletic. 4.61 40, 6.87 3 cone, 4.25 short shuttle, 10.1 broad jump, and he did 34 on the bench press. But that part of that has to do with the 31-inch arm. So, but nonetheless, that's fantastic. So, excellent player. He's good on the edge. He can kick inside. But again, you'd be looking at, I mean, the Raiders would have to take him the second round because he wouldn't be there at the 78th pick, or the 79th pick, I don't believe. So that's 3 players in the second round that would be awesome players to challenge Clelin Ferrell on the 4-tech position. But again, I mean, you'd have to be willing to cut Nassib, and then you'd also have to be willing to kind of admit about Clelin. I don't think Clelin's a bad player. I'm not knocking. I'm just saying that we haven't seen the pass rush production from him. And the three guys I just mentioned are pass rusher ability is much higher than I think Clelin. Although Clelin, I don't think had the proper coaching. So I think Gus might be able to get the better of him. And then the next one is projected in round 4 is Cam Sample, who obviously went against a little lesser talent, kind of like Peyton Turner and Milton Williams. It's a little bit of a knock on these guys, but I mean, you play who you play. You can't do much about that. But Cam Sample had a fantastic Senior Bowl, 6'2 3/4, 274, 32.5-inch arms. But 10-inch hands, so that's good for him, and an 81-inch wingspan, so that's also really good. Let's see here, 4.7940, so that's comparable to Clee. Cam played a lot more, or I don't know. He really spent time on edge and tackle, especially in Senior Bowl. They really had him at D tackle a lot, so I'm not sure they see him as a D end, but I saw a lot of good film on him about the defensive end spot as well as the D tackle spot, and I think he's somebody you could develop into be able to handle the run game, given his physical traits. He should be able to do it. And this is a little bit more of a projection to play the 4 technique. He did some of it, but not as much as a 2-gap situation. So that's something to consider. But again, I think he might go in the 3rd round, so I'm not sure the Raiders would be willing to commit to that level of draft pick. I think the player's really good. I just don't know if they'd be able to commit to something like that. So the next player, this is where it starts to get interesting for the Raiders. Deo, and I'm sorry about the name, Odiwibu from Vanderbilt. So PFN has him as a 130th overall 4th-round pick. However, he tore his Achilles at the Senior Bowl, and originally PFN had him as a top 75 player. Now they have him all the way into 130, and with a torn Achilles at the Senior Bowl, I think he drops even further than this in round 5. And in round 5, that would be interesting for the Raiders. In fact, I think I would pick him in round 5. I don't think I'd hesitate to pick him in round 5. 6'6", 276. 35-inch arms, 10 1/8 hands, 86 3/8 wingspan. That's all we really have on him. We don't have his athletic times, but with those profiles and the tape that he has at Vanderbilt, I mean, he was all over. He'd play up and down the line. He's a beast. He plays with a huge motor, is good in the run and passing game. He can get to the quarterback. He actually, to me, could potentially be a Leo. He's a little bit heavier than a normal Leo position, but I mean, he has the size and length that you would look for out of that position. But with him, picking him in the 5th round, I would immediately put him on the PUP list, and maybe not great for the player because he might be ready before then, but it would be great for the Raiders. You put him on the PUP list for the year, let Clee play, let Nassib back him up, and then at the end of the season, obviously you still have Clee for 1 more year, and then you have the decision to make on the 5th-year option, but you also would have the decision on Nassib. If he's not getting the job done this year, next year we're in a better spot to cut him. We'd still owe him half of his contract, so we'd pay him out about $4.5 million, and we'd save about $4.5 million on the cap. And then we'd have Deo here to come in as his backup for Clee for 1 more year, or to challenge Clee for the starting spot if he doesn't get it done this year. So that puts us in a great position at the 4 technique spot. And also Deo has that ability, I believe, to also extend out even further and play, to possibly play at the Leo position, depending on the athletic traits. He didn't obviously have a pro day, so I don't know all of his athletic traits to see if that would be comparable. But I do know that on tape he lined up everywhere. He lined up a 1 technique, 3 technique, 5 technique. He was all over the line. So he's very athletic and would be a fantastic pick if he fell to round 5 for the Raiders. So that would be my first option. Second, out of Kembo Ondiji, sorry about that, Notre Dame. Notre Dame guy, they have PFN has a 144 round 4. I actually think he's going to be a lot higher than that because 6'4", 269 his length, 35.5-inch arms, 9.5-inch hands, but 84 wingspan. He had a 40, a 4.8, and 22 reps on the bench, but kind of a raw player. He has some really huge flashes on film. I was like, wow, this guy's awesome. And then some other times it's just not there. So a little bit inconsistent. I can see a team that's a little bit more established and maybe doesn't have as many holes as the Raiders to take him in the third round as the projection. I mean, you can project him as being a starting defensive end for your team, and so I think a team's willing to take a third rounder on him. I don't think we would do that in the fourth round. If you fell the fifth, possibly. So I'd just say have him on your radar, Raider fans, as a possibility. Me personally, I think there's too many factors that would be involved with drafting him in the fourth round or even in the fifth, because then you're kind of in that spot where you're going to have to do something with Nassib, and I don't think the team's ready to do something with him. So far, just Deo would be the only one that I think would really be draftable for the Raiders in round 5, because you could put him on the PUP list and not have to make those decisions this coming year on Ferrell or on Nassib. And I think that would be a good fit. Another player that I really like, and they have him at round 5 at 180, PFN does, is Chauncey Goldston. 6'5", 269, 34 3/4 arms, 11-inch hands, and 84 1/4 wingspan. He had a 36-inch vert, 4.79 40, 7.52 3-cone. So athletically, didn't fill the profile as well, but his length and the vert, 9'11 broad jump. So he has a lot of athletic traits. He's strong. He had 22 reps, but with 34-inch arms, it's really good. So somebody that maybe keep an eye on for the Raiders. Again, if you drafted him, he comes into camp. He's going to compete with Nassib. And, if you do draft him, you have to say, hey, if he is better, I'm going to, as a Raiders, they'd have to be able to say, yeah, I'd be willing to cut Nassib and eat the money. So that's something to consider there. Next guy here. So the next three we get into would be really good candidates potentially for the Raiders. Mustafa Johnson, round 7, 246. And I know we don't have a round 7 pick, but I'm not sure he's going to get drafted. So I'd say if he fell into UDFA status, that'd be somebody to consider. He'd be a bigger defensive end at 280. I think you could slim him down a little bit, because he's played, he actually came into the college as a linebacker, so he can slim down. I think he beefed up because they were trying to make him more of a D tackle. But he's got 32-inch arms, 10 and 2/8 hands, so he's got the big hands. Unfortunately, he didn't get to work out. He had a little bit of a hamstring issue, so we didn't get to see a lot of the athletic traits. However, he did do the shuttle. He's 176 on the 10 split, which is okay, and then 27 reps on the bench, so he's super strong. 6'2", 280, which is say. He's a little bit bigger weight-wise, but I think that can be rectified. But why I'd consider it as a UDFA is because in 2018, he was awesome on the line. He had 15.5 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks. He played the 4 technique with 2 gap responsibilities and played the 3 technique, which is exactly what we're looking for. He's all-pro, Pac-12, or all Pac-12. Not that I don't do all-pro, but all Pac-12. So anyways, really good player, somebody that I think the Raiders could take a look at. 2019 was pretty good too. He just had gotten hurt partway through the season, and then last year there's nothing. Pac-12 didn't really barely played, so this is more of projection because you're going back mainly to 2018 and part of 2019 tape. But what he did put on tape was very good, I thought. So the Raiders, I mean, it would be consideration, and if they might even see him as a 3-tech, so as a UDFA. You have a potential 4-tech or at least a 3-tech on your hands that you can work and develop, and it could be a very good option for the Raiders. The next 2 options I really like. I like Malik Carrie a lot. I liked him at Georgia. 6'3", 280, again, a little bit on the heavier side for the position, but I think could slim down. 32.5-inch arms, 10.5-inch hands. He suffered a knee injury at the Senior Bowl, which was really unfortunate. Which was a bummer, but what I concentrated on was his 2019 tape for Georgia, and he had an average depth of tackle of 1.17 yards against the run, which is fantastic. And then 41 pressures against the pass. He didn't have the sack numbers, but I mean the production, the pressures, being able to handle the running game was all fantastic. This is a player that I think somebody will jump in and take a shot 6th or 7th round with, and I wouldn't mind the Raiders doing it, and he may fall to UDFA. If he does, the Raiders should definitely pick him up and put him on the PUP list. So even if you drafted him in the 6th or 7th round, I'd be totally fine with that. If somehow you said, hey, you traded next year's 7th round pick for this year's whatever, and got him, get him on board, and put him on the PUP list because he's got to recover from that knee injury. I think it would be fantastic. I don't have his athletic profile because he didn't do the pro day, but I think this would be an outstanding pickup for the Raiders to be able to let him sit for a year, have his rights for the year, and then be able to make decisions on Clelin Ferrell and Carl Nassib at the end of the year would be fantastic for the Raiders. It put them in a great position moving forward. And the last guy I want to talk about is Raymond Jones out of Georgia Southern. Didn't get a lot of film on him, but they don't have him being drafted, so he could be a UDFA guy, which would be great. He's 6'3", 270, 33 and a quarter inch arms, 9 3/8 hands, 79 and a quarter wingspan. So he doesn't necessarily have the length, but 33 inch vert, 4.74, 40 and 7.24 3 cone. But if you look at Clelin, 6'3 and a half, 264. Clelin definitely has the length, but the 40 time is 4.74 for Raymond, and Clelin is 4.77. 3 cone, 7.26. 7.26 for Clelin, and let's see here. Raymond is 7.24 3 cone, and 23 inch or 23 bench presses. So somebody that the Raiders could definitely consider as a UDFA prospect. In 50 games, he had 150 tackles, 36 tackles for loss, 16 and a half sacks. So definitely somebody the Raiders could consider as a UDFA prospect. And that's all we have for the Raider roster report today. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for all those subscribers that we've gotten lately. Please like and share the video, add comments, and we'll talk to you next time.